chapter number 26. Psalms chapter number 26. And believe it or not, we're going to knock out the whole psalm tonight. And now Nathan's going, now I know he's lying about a shorter sermon. No, it's actually a very, very simple sermon. I think the truths of it are going to be easy to identify here for us. But just so you know, Psalms 26, most agree that Psalms 25 through 28, which means 25, 26, 27, and 28, were all written at the same time. Now, again, as I've speculated through chapter 25, we don't really know when it was written. My guess, not biblical, it doesn't say. My guess is it was written when Absalom tried to take the kingdom from David. So, you can go with that with this, or you don't have to. Regardless of the circumstances, the reason God didn't tell us is because, guess what? We don't need to know. So we just need to know that this was through some hardship, a time of trial, a time of tribulation for David. And so Psalms 26, if you would please stand with me in honor of God's word. We're going to read all 12 verses. Verse number 1 of Psalms chapter 26. Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. I have trusted also in the Lord, therefore I shall not slide. Oh, I didn't mention this, but this also became a Hebrew song. Like they did sing this all the time, apparently. I'm not going to attempt to do that for you because I don't know Hebrew that well. Verse 2. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. Just like to point out, that's very similar to Psalms 139 where it says, search me, O Lord, know my heart, try me and know my thoughts. Very similar to that. Verse 3, for thy loving kindness is before mine eyes, and I have walked in thy truth. I like that he specified thy truth. I'm doing some of the preaching now, so hopefully it'll get short when I sit down so it's full as you. But I love that, thy truth. Because in our day, everybody has their truth. If you've ever heard somebody say, well, that's not my truth. Your truth is irrelevant because there is no your truth. There is the truth or there is not the truth. 2 + 2 = 4 or it doesn't. There is no your truth. And the real truth is God's truth. Not my truth or your truth. It's his truth. I love that. David was wise before his time. He didn't even know that was going to be an issue in 2022. And yet here he is, wrote something that goes directly against that issue. I love it. Try to tell me the Lord didn't know what he was doing. Verse 4. Sorry, now y'all been standing for a minute. Here we go. I've not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. I have hated the congregation of evildoers, and will not sit with the wicked. I will wash mine hands in innocency, so will I compass thine altar, O Lord, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving, and tell of thy wondrous works. Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house, and the place where thine honor dwelleth. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in mine integrity. Redeem me, and be merciful unto me. My foot standeth in an even place. In the congregation will I bless the Lord. Now I want to read verse 12 again. I like this. This is just the creativity of David. He says, my foot standeth in an even place. And if you go back and look at verse number 1, at the end he says, therefore I shall not slide. He's in 2 different ways he said the same thing. Because I'm standing on your truth and on you, my footing is sure. I like that. Anyways, that's just fun note. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful to be in your house this evening. Lord, I ask that you would please bless this message. Lord, help me to say only what you'd have for me to say. Open the hearts of the people. And Lord, even though we may not have an invitation here on a Wednesday night, I ask that you would affect change in people's lives through this passage. I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. You may be seated. Thank you for standing. This is one of those titles I was proud of, even though I probably shouldn't have been. I titled it, The Bold and the Innocent. The Bold and the Innocent. And yes, I was playing off the title of that soap opera, The Bold and the Beautiful. But I thought I was being creative, so since nobody laughed, it failed. Anyways, The Bold and the Innocent. It's still an accurate title. I was talking to a pastor about this. I actually want to say it was Park Sutton, but I can't be for sure about that. And I believe it was at last year's men's retreat. But we were talking about how nothing makes you bolder than your true innocence. Meaning, if you did not do something that you're accused of doing, somebody that's innocent typically gets very vocal and upset that they were ever accused, if they're innocent. That was He cited a study. We had a long conversation about that. And then he used David as an example multiple times. Now, he didn't use Psalm 26 if I'm remembering correctly, but he used David as an example that when David was innocent, he had no problem protesting his innocence even to the Lord, who would have known he was innocent. A lot of situations prove that when you're innocent, you're bold. If you, in fact, I'm trying to learn that as a pastor, that if I really just pay attention to how somebody reacts to being accused of something, I could probably figure out if they're innocent or guilty without them actually, well, they're not. If they're going to lie either way, but without knowing the truth. But one, as I said, passage that will prove this is this passage, Psalms 26. It proves that when you're innocent, it makes you bold. Number one, it made David bold enough to take it to God. There's nobody that's harder to be bold with if you were lying than God. Did that make sense? When it came out of my mouth sounded kind of... Here's what I mean. Let me say it again. If you are not innocent, you're not going to be bold to God, because even if you've got your wife fooled, your pastor fooled, your friends fooled, your other church members fooled, your boss fooled, you will never have God fooled. So you don't be bold to God if you're a liar. And David was very bold to God here. And so we're kind of starting out with, we can see his boldness even in the fact that he took this to God, and he started it by saying, and really the first two verses introduce the subject and set the tone for the psalm. He says, judge me. Now that word judge, it's not misleading, it's not wrong, it's an accurate word. I don't want to make it sound like the Bible's wrong. The Bible's completely correct, but the definition of that word judge is actually vindicate. Like, vindicate me, Lord. You know me. You've checked me out. You know what's going on in my life. You've judged me. Vindicate me for who I am. And he claims, for I have walked in mine integrity. I've lived a life above reproach. Here's really what that word integrity means. I've lived a blameless life. Oh, not blameless doesn't mean perfect. We understand that. We understand that's actually one of the qualifications for a pastor is to be blameless. It doesn't mean that I got to be perfect. It just means I've got to be above reproach. I have to be a man of integrity. I have to at least try to be a man of integrity. I feel like I fail at that a lot, but I'm hoping that most pastors feel like they fail at that a lot. David was able to stand before God and say, I'm blameless. I've walked in mine integrity, and I've done my very best to be right with you. And he's very much emphasizing his innocence. Then I wondered, what's a good way to try to be blameless? What's a good way to walk in your integrity? And really, David gives us the answer. I have trusted also in the Lord. When you trust in God, it kind of helps you to be a man of integrity or a woman of integrity for those of the XY chromosomes here. It helps you, or XX, sorry, XY is men, XX is female. And yes, there's still only two. No matter what I say, there's still only two. I feel like Paul, no matter in Galatians, we're going to see this on Sunday. He says, no matter who preaches another gospel, whether it be me or another angel, no matter if I say there's more than two genders, guess what? There's still only two genders. That's still truth. Amen. Anyways, because I can mess up too. Anyways, I feel like one of the good things, or things that would be helpful to make you a man of integrity or a woman of integrity, is if you just trust in the Lord. I know there's no point in lying, because the Bible has taught me that one, lying is a sin, but two, it really doesn't profit you at all. I know fornication is wrong because the Bible tells me, and if I just trust in the truth of the Bible, if I just trust in what the Lord said to me, I don't have to worry about doing it. Or adultery, for my case, since I'm already married. I know that there's ways to raise my kids, and there's ways not to raise my kids, because the Bible tells me if I just trust the Lord, I'm going to do the right things. I'm going to be blameless. David said, I have trusted also in the Lord. Therefore, because I've trusted in the Lord, I shall not slide. Basically meaning I'm sure-footed. I've already kind of covered that. Verse number 2, examine me. This is very similar to judge me, except judge me means vindicate me for I'm innocent. Examine means check me out yourself. Check me out yourself. I like that. It's easy. Hang on. It's easy to claim you've been a man of integrity and you've trusted in the Lord verbally, right? I can get up right now and say, I have trusted in the Lord and I'm a man of integrity. It is a completely different matter to ask God to check it out. No, that's a completely different matter. Because I can fool you. I can't fool God. As we said, that's what makes him bold, is the fact that he wasn't lying. The fact that he said, check it out for yourself, Lord, is actually pretty impressive. It's the difference of saying, say to your wife, I have nothing to hide on my phone, or saying, here's my phone, you can go through it. There's the difference. One is just, you got to trust me on it. The other is, check it out yourself. David said, I've got nothing to hide. You go ahead and examine me, Lord. You know I've done nothing wrong in this situation. You know I've done nothing to bring this on myself. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. He says, check it out all yourself, Lord. I trust you won't find anything there that would be bad on my part. But right after asking God to check him out, he does go on to explain and demonstrate his integrity. Look at verse 3 through 9. This is all him basically saying, these are the things I didn't do. If I had done one of these things, God, I would understand why you were mad at me. But because I didn't do any of these things, I don't think that you should be mad at me. Now, in verse 3 at the beginning, he kind of lays down a guiding principle for his life. For thy loving kindness is before me. Meaning, he is keeping the love of God at the forefront of his mind. When you keep God's love at the forefront of your mind, it helps you from doing some, I'll just say it, stupid things. When you keep the love of God before you, the fact that God loved you, the fact that God loved you enough to send his son to die on the cross for you, the fact that God loved you enough to send his son to die on the cross for you, but not just leave him dead, but raise him from the dead and to conquer sin and death for you so that you can have an eternal home from heaven. But even as we talked about on Sunday afternoon, it's not just so that you can have an eternal home for heaven, it's so that you can have victory in this present world. When you realize that God loves you that much, it kind of helps keep you from doing dumb things. David said, I'm going to keep thy loving kindness before my eyes always. That's my focus. And because that's been my focus, now he goes through a long rant of things that he's not done. I have walked in thy truth. Verse 4, I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. Basically, he's saying this. I did not spend time with men characterized by false or worthless activities. That's kind of what he's saying. I'm not somebody that spends time with men who are liars and who spend their time doing dumb things. Worthless, vile. It doesn't have to be like actually wicked. That dissemblers is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of, it's worthless. It's like video games. Video games are worthless. They're not in and of themselves evil, I suppose. There are some that are evil because of the content, but not all of them are evil because of the content. But they're kind of wasteful. David's saying, I haven't done that. I haven't spent a bunch of time with men. I've not sat with men who are false or who are basically just wasteful. He goes on in verse 5. I've hated the congregations of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked. Now, this does not mean that David hated people. We're not supposed to hate people, right? Amen. That was bad showing on y'all's part. We're not supposed to hate people. Amen. What we're supposed to hate is their sin. And here's where David, he's not saying, I hated all them evildoers. He's saying, man, I hate the fact that they get together. They congregate to do wicked together. I hate the congregation of evildoers is what he's saying. It's not that he's saying he hated them. He hated what they did. And he especially hated what they did when they get together. I love teenagers. Try my very best. I hate when too many teenage boys get together. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I'm illustrating this. I love teenage boys. I look at them and they have such bright, promising futures, and typically as teenagers they haven't ruined their lives like some of us older people have. But when you get a bunch of teenage boys together, I hate it because they're stupid. And they congregate in evil together, and I don't like that. David's saying, I don't even like when they get together because the evildoers, I don't like when they congregate, I don't like the problems. And he says, I will not sit with the wicked, you will not find me there. David's saying, you wouldn't find me in a group gossiping about somebody. You wouldn't find me in a Facebook post about something. I'm trying to make this real. I don't have Facebook, so I'm guessing I don't know how Facebook works. Something like that, maybe. You would never find me at the coffee shop, or maybe not a coffee shop, but at breakfast with these men that are known for doing wicked things and who only have what he's saying, you're not going to catch me there. I'm not going to be with them. Continuing on, verse 6. I'm sorry. Yes, verse 6. Verse 6 through 8. As opposed to time with the wicked, David shows his loyalty to the Lord in verses 6 through 8. He says, I will wash mine hands in innocency. So will I compass thine altar, O Lord, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all the wondrous works. Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house and the place where thine honor dwelleth. The theme of those 3 verses is this: worship around the house of God. So do you see the theme? This is why it's so simple. He starts by saying, Lord, vindicate me because I'm innocent. Check me out for yourself. You know I'm innocent. But just in case, before you check me out, understand, I didn't do all these things. I didn't hang out with false guys and dissemblers. I ain't sitting around with the evildoers as they congregate. In fact, I hate when they get together. I don't sit with the wicked. He goes through all that. He says, but here's what I am known for. In verse 6, he says, I am known for washing my hands in innocency. What does that mean? He's actually talking about the ceremonial cleansing of his hands that makes you clean. He's saying, I've done that, I've been cleansed, and I've stepped away knowing I'm an innocent person. He goes on, so I will compass thine altar. That's the place where you do sacrifices. Guess where the altar was? That was around the tabernacle. Don't forget, during the days of David, they didn't have the temple, they had the tabernacle. He wanted to build the temple. God said, no, you're a bloody man. You don't get to build the temple. So he gathered all the stuff that Solomon would need to build the temple. But David got stuck with the tabernacle, which isn't a bad thing. It was actually still pretty cool if you remember studying that in Sunday school. So he's saying, I compass about the altar, meaning I'm still giving sacrifices to you. If I could equate that to today, it'd still be like, well, I'm still serving the church and tithing. Lord, I show up with the right heart and attitude. Lord, I'm still serving and tithing. Going on, verse number 7, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works. What are the things that you would do at the tabernacle? It's a great place to praise the Lord around the altar. As you would sacrifice to the Lord, it was a great time to give thanks to God. He's expressing, I still give thanks to God. Verse number 8, Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house. Again, referencing the tabernacle. And the place where thine honor dwelleth. All of that, all those verses are pointing to the fact that David was saying, I love your house. I love to be where you dwell. You know I'm innocent because I've come and I've cleansed myself ceremonially and I continue to offer sacrifices to you. I continue to praise you and I continue to enjoy being in your house. By the way, you can never say you love the Lord if you are not in His house every chance you get. Now, I know I'm preaching that to a Wednesday night crowd, and that's kind of, it goes pointless for you, but if ever somebody's listening on YouTube or something later on, you can never claim that you love the Lord and not be where the Lord claimed He is and where He wants you. That's just fact. Anybody that tries to say, oh, I really love God, but they're unfaithful to church, I already know they're lying. By the way, that's one of those pastor things where I don't need great discernment to go, sure you do. And I'm sure if I pulled your tithing record, it's mint. I haven't pulled anybody's tithing record, but I suppose I could. Anyways, he's basically saying this. I've spent a lot of time around your house. As opposed to hanging with the wicked, I like to hang with you, God. That's what he's saying. That's a good thing to be able to claim. As opposed to hanging out with the wicked, I prefer to hang out with you. And I don't mean that in a irreverent way. I mean it the way he said it, as in praising, offering, ceremonial cleansing, just being where God dwells. Okay, you get that? When you refuse to sit with the wicked and prove your loyalty to God by loving being in His presence, you can do what he does in verse 9, which is pray with confidence that you be spared from the fate of the wicked. By the way, the fact that he brought this up, and this just came to my mind, so I got to take this as the Holy Spirit because I'm not this smart. The fact that he brought up the altar and the house of the Lord and the ceremonial washing of his hands, the fact that he brought this up when most likely he wasn't in Jerusalem tells me he missed getting to go to the house of the Lord because he wasn't able to be there because he was running for his life in the wilderness. So the fact that he wrote about it, I'm sure means he missed it. He wanted to be there. He could tell God, you know, every chance I got, I was there, and I just haven't got a chance to be there because I miss it. If anything, we learned from COVID, we had to miss being together congregationally. Okay, anyways, when you do that, when you can honestly say you've refused to sit with the wicked, you've proved your loyalty to God by loving being in His presence, you can pray with confidence that you may be spared from the fate of the wicked. Look at the rest of the chapter. It's David asking to be spared from the fate of those that were doing wicked things against him. He said, gather not my soul with sinners. Basically, don't count me with them wicked dudes. By the way, this could still be a son. Still, I know that'd be harder to pray, but it could still be a son. Nor my life with bloody men. Those men that came in and were killing people and the bad stuff, don't count me with them. In whose hands is mischief. The guys that always want to do mischief. And their right hand is full of bribes. The guys that'll take bribes. But as for me, I will walk in mine integrity. redeem me, and be merciful unto me. Again, I like to point out when he says merciful, almost there's never a point where God says, or where David asks for grace from God. It's almost always mercy, because David understood as a sinner, he did not deserve anything. He wasn't asking for unmerited favor. He was constantly seeking God for mercy, as in not getting what he did deserve. As a sinner, he knew he deserved all the bad that the world could bring, but he asked God for mercy. Verse number 12. My foot standeth in an even place. In the congregations will I bless the Lord. So after he prays, basically, I don't want the fate of the wicked. In verse 12, he states that his feet stand on level ground. As we pointed out, he kind of starts and finishes the psalm the same way, saying, my feet are on sure footing. And then at the end, he's saying, I'm trusting in you, and my feet are on sure footing. And in the congregations will I bless the Lord. The psalm is rather simple. David was confident he would be delivered from wicked men by God because he is loyal to God. Essentially, he is innocent, and that made him bold. That's where the title came from. Because he was innocent, that made him bold. That's an important theme for application in just a minute. So a few thoughts and we're done. See, I wasn't lying. You're like, oh, you're not done yet. Sure that. Number one, you're more confident in your prayers to God when you belong to God, live righteously, and remember his loving kindness. Now, I could have broke that down further, but basically this. You're going to pray a lot more confidently when you're living righteously, which David was stated that he did. Belong to God, meaning you're saved first. Being saved is kind of a prerequisite. It's a Wednesday, so I'm not going to go into that. But as a saved person, you ought to live righteously. When you're living righteously, that kind of gives you boldness. Here's an example. I remember as a kid, when I would come to ask my parents for things, first, everything that I thought they might say needed to be done was going to be done first. All my homework's done, the house is cleaned, my bedroom's cleaned, I took out the trash, I mowed the yard. Dad, can I go over to a friend's house? I don't know, but my homework's done, and the lawn is mowed, and the trash is taken out, and my bedroom's clean. Well, I guess when you've done right, you're more confident to ask for things. Does that make sense? So you are more confident in your prayers when you live righteously. If people struggle to pray, it's not just because praying is hard. I'll admit, praying is hard. But if you struggle to pray, part of that struggling to pray may be that you're just not living righteously. And the other part may be you're not remembering his loving kindness. When you remember all the loving kindness that we already talked about without going into it again, when you remember all that, that's the God you're praying to, that ought to make you a little more bold. God, you showed me great love and mercy all my life, so I'm not ashamed to ask for a little bit more. So that's number one. Number two, don't let the corrupt world steal your innocence before God. This is more of a don't fall for Satan's sins. Well, I like that. Don't fall for Satan's sins. They're sins that you could commit, but Satan is the one that is the father of lies. And anyways, what I mean by that is, and I know some of you are further along in life, but it's never too late to fall for some dumb trick that Satan pulls on us. It's never too late to let the world steal your innocence. And once the world has stolen your innocence, is in you give in to what the devil wants you to do. Because now that you're saved, there's nothing he can do about that. Amen. Once you're saved, always saved. That's very clear. Once saved, always saved. That's biblical. Once you're saved, you're always saved. But he can definitely keep you from doing more for God. How? By getting you to mess up. How does he get pastors? He usually tempts them with some kind of sin that means they can't pastor anymore. Now they don't get to propagate the gospel. And everybody that was, whether it was right or wrong, those that really loved him and followed him, those people usually fall off too. But he can do the same to you. He can say, hey, you've got kids and grandkids that maybe they've followed the Lord because you followed the Lord. If you allow Satan to tempt you to do something wrong and take your innocence away, then your family and your grandchildren and church members that look up to you, they fall as well. So number one, you're more confident in your prayers when you belong to God, live righteously, and remember his loving kindness. Number two, don't let the corrupt world steal your innocence before God. Number three, this was a psalm for vindication. This was a psalm for deliverance. He wanted vindication for the fact that he did nothing wrong and bad was happening to him. But I want to state this very clearly. Even if vindication doesn't come in this life, at the end of this age, all saints will be vindicated. So maybe you've prayed for vindication. Maybe you've thought in your mind, no, Pastor, I'm telling you, I was not doing anything sinful. There was nothing I hadn't repented of. I had done the best of my ability to be right with God. I'd done the best of my ability to be a righteous person, and still bad things happened to me. I'd say you're in just the same place as David. Well, then why didn't God vindicate me? Why didn't God immediately vindicate David? Now, he does eventually, but he didn't immediately. And maybe you're in the eventually time, but maybe God never vindicates you in this life. But you can take hope in the fact that at the end of the age, all saints are vindicated. We're going to be known for what happens. When we're all out of here and tribulation hits, I actually think most of us will still want mercy for the people that are left on earth, whether we know them or not, maybe even the people that did us wrong. So keep hoping that. And number 4, and this really comes from verse 12. I didn't elaborate on it because I wanted to elaborate here. At the end of verse 12, he says, in the congregations will I bless the Lord. Number 4 is this: keep praising through the hard times. Sometimes Satan gives you hard times. Sometimes God allows hard times. Or God always allows it because God's the sovereign God that allows anything. But when Satan wants to do it to you, sometimes it's just to get you to stop praising God. To stop going to church, to stop giving, to stop serving, to stop proclaiming God's name. Let me encourage you, do what David did. Keep praising through the hard times. Because in those instances, God gets glory and Satan gets upset. God gets glory because he gets to look at Satan and go, see, I told you. And Satan just tries somebody else. But even if nothing in your life was good, nothing in your life was going well, unfair things are happening to you at every turn, and you've done your best to live righteously, to keep God's loving kindness in front of your eyes, to belong to Him, even if you've done all of that and nothing else goes good, the fact that you're saved is still more than enough. Amen. So if you stop praising God because, money's tight, my marriage isn't as good as I want it to be, my house isn't as nice as I want it to be, this keeps breaking, I hit another car on I-25, if you stop praising the Lord for those little things, what you're saying to God is, salvation isn't enough for me. I need more from that, more than that from you. So keep praising through the hard times. And like David, you can be bold if you're innocent. Amen. But the other side of that token in this, just take a second. If you're not innocent, you're not going to be very bold when you talk to God. In fact, when you're not innocent, when you are guilty, it typically makes you shrink away from God. So if you find that your relationship with God is struggling, it may not be, Satan's really coming up against me. It may just be you're guilty and your guilt drives you away from God, when if you are innocent, it makes you bold to go to God. Let's pray.